not even know where they're from for sure. When we hear them, we know, I know those words. The love chapter. We actually expect to hear them often when we go to a wedding. In fact, if you saw the movie The Wedding Crashers, the characters played by Owen Wilson and Vincent Vaughn would go and crash weddings, and at one, they are having a bet before the church service starts on which text will be used for the wedding. Will it be 1 Corinthians 13 or will it be Colossians? And of course, Owen Wilson gets $20 from Vince Vaughn because he was right. It was 1 Corinthians 13. They are famous words. We know them. Most of us don't even have to look when it's being read. We kind of know what comes next. They're beautiful words that have been put to song. They're poetry. And I think it's so great to hear these words at a wedding, at a baptism, at a funeral, because these words were created for community. Community, think about that. And they sound so beautiful, and yet they're really hard. They're hard to do. Did you hear everything that Paul tells us we're supposed to do to love each other? It takes a lot of our strength to do these things. Even though faith is a gift and love is a gift, then we have to work hard at it. But the opposite is also true. It takes a lot of energy to be negative as well. Have you ever tried to hold a grudge? Have you ever tried to seek revenge? Have you ever tried to hate someone, or you just hated someone? You dislike them so much. It takes a lot of us. It takes the very fiber of who we are. Sometimes it can even consume us, and we don't have a lot of reserve for anything positive. Energy is used whether we are being positive or negative. And we know this. I love these words from 1 Corinthians, and yet we all know it's hard. They're easy if I just read them. And then another person walks into the room. And then 5 more people walk in. And all of a sudden we realize we actually have to do this. It's easy to hear these words or speak these words, but suddenly, I'm supposed to act this way with that person? Have you met my brother? Do you know this person? Have you ever sat in a meeting with this person? And the list goes on of why we don't have to live out these words. And yet, let's listen to them. We know what is required to be patient and kind. All of us know how to do that. I don't know about you, but sometimes by 10 o'clock on any given day, I think I've used up all the patience and kindness I have in me. And yet the call is to be patient and kind, even when I don't feel like it. Even when I don't think I might have the strength for it. Think about writing down this week. Take a piece of paper and pen with you. Write down every time you try not to be envious, boastful, arrogant, or rude. I think a lot of us would do a lot more writing than we want to imagine. What if this next week you put a quarter in a cup for world hunger every single time that you insisted on your own way, were irritable or resentful? If we're completely honest, most of us would give a lot of money to world hunger. Try not rejoicing in wrongdoing, especially if that wrongdoing is happening to someone we really despise. Of course we're against wrongdoing. Until my enemies has wrongdoing against you, and then maybe I'm a little gleeful and delightful. Also try rejoicing in the truth, even when you don't want to face the truth. We love the truth as long as it's my truth. But my best friends are the ones who speak truth to me when I don't want to hear it. There's a great Turkish proverb that says, if you're about to speak the truth, have one foot in the stirrup. We know this is true. Truth is hard, and yet it is so liberating. So when Paul says this is how to love, it sounds like a really hard to-do list. And yet we know the benefits of it. We know the benefits to us individually, because if I'm carrying around grudges and revenge and hatred, it is taking up a lot of my energy. I could just as well use that energy for kindness, to try not to be irritable, to try not to rejoice in wrongdoing. Think about what difference it makes if you make that switch, even in your own mind. That's why we tell our children, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. When we tell them to kill them with kindness, it does change how we think and how we act. Albert Einstein knew a lot about energy. He said energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. That's what Paul's calling us to do. It's easy to be rude. Most of us don't have to work very hard at it. It's easy to be envious. Just look at Facebook for a few minutes and we can be so envious of everyone else's life. But to use that energy and take on the form of kindness and self-control, what happens then is there's community energy. If you haven't read our annual report yet, I encourage you to do so. And I know sometimes annual reports we think of them as bedside reading material to get us to sleep. And maybe if you've read a lot, it can feel that way. But what if you read it with the idea of community energy in mind? Look through report after report, even look through our budget. There is no way any of that could be accomplished with one person. It is community energy that we are able to accomplish so much. What if I decide tomorrow I'm going to serve breakfast at the banquet? All by myself. I'm the Lone Ranger. I can do this. They need 25 to 30 volunteers typically. It wouldn't work. Most people wouldn't get fed. I'd never get the food ready in time. Now, if 30 of us went tomorrow morning, most of us would have to do very little. We'd have to do a small part. Community energy changes our life and changes the world. There was a study done by Harvard University and the London School of Economics, and other research projects have been done on it. What is the #1 reason that people have happiness in their lives? Think about what you thought that was when you were 18, if you're over 18. A big house, fat bank account, lots of material goods, every new technology item I ever want. The #1 factor in happiness across cultures, across economic levels is relationships that are healthy and social people that give us life. Think about that. Think about what we think of when we think what would make you happy, winning the lottery, or the night I got 18 gallons of gas for 16 cents at Hy-Vee because I had so much in Fuel Saver. That made me happy. But what really makes me happy is to be able to tell people about that great savings I had. What we know is that healthy social networks help us to be better people. And there's many reasons for that. A few include collective wisdom, that we know things that other people don't know. Some of you know the story already, but I'm going to repeat it. When Ellis was 5 and Simon was 3, we were going to a continuing ed event. So Simon stayed with his godparents in Iowa. Ellis stayed with his godparents in Minnesota. But as we were driving away, leaving Simon to go on to the next place, Bruce and I are both crying because we're going to miss him. We'd never spent more than a night away from him. And all of a sudden, Ellis goes, "What are you guys crying about?" And we said, "We just realized how much we're going to miss Simon." He starts crying. He says, "What am I going to do this week? I know things Simon doesn't know. Simon knows things I don't know. What are we going to do this week if those things happen to us?" That's the kind of thing Paul is talking about. We're the body of Christ. Each of us knows things that the rest of the group doesn't know. And together we have this collective wisdom. We also help each other push the limits. Because so often I know I can't do something by myself, so I don't even try. But a group of us can say, what if? What if we take on taking care of the staff at McGovern Middle School? And suddenly hundreds of lives are changed because of that. A small group of people said, what if we made meals so people could take those out of our freezer and give these thinking of meals to people during hard times in their life, and hundreds of lives are changed. We push each other in positive ways. This community energy changes lives. There's new ideas. All of us have life experiences and education that we bring those new ideas together. And some of the best ideas I hear each week are from the youth. Because maybe they aren't set in the ways of, we've always done it that way. They'll say, what if? And I'm like, sure, let's try it. Or I'll bring that forward. We have these new ideas. We are shaped by who we are and how we were raised, and those new ideas come together. And of course, mutual support. Because there's days none of us has the strength to do what needs to be done, and the group does it for us. Or we don't have the strength to believe it, and the group believes it for us. We are this community energy that goes out into the world. It sustains us, and it goes into the world. Jan Richardson says about loving, loving is never just about opening our heart. It's about being willing to have our heart become larger as we make room for people and stories and experiences we never imagined holding. It's about being willing to have our heart become deeper as we move beyond the surface layers of our assumptions, prejudices, and habits in order to truly see and receive what and who is before us. It's about being willing to have our heart continually shattered and remade as we take in not only the brokenness of the world, but also the beauty of it, the astounding wonder that will not allow us to remain the same. That's really what Paul's calling for. We don't have to remain the same. We don't have to be stuck in our sin and our anger and our prejudice and our grudges. Instead, he says, there is this community energy that will change the world, that does change us as individuals. And how does it happen? This isn't law. Paul isn't saying you have to do this. He's inviting us to live this way because God first loved us. That's what it all comes down to. And then we're called to follow his example. We're reminded of how this beautiful love chapter ends. Now faith, hope, and love abide. And the greatest by far is love. Let us pray. God of love, we give you thanks that you loved us before we were even born. That claim was on us and can never be taken away. We ask that you help us to live as those who love so deeply. We know that we have that claim on us, and so we work hard at sharing patience and kindness. We work hard at not being irritable. We ask now that you give us courage, strength, peace, and hope as we live out this community energy. We pray this in Jesus' holy name.